Yeah, so just look at your team and think, where are they likely to go? What are they likely to do in the next few seconds? Most of the time, they're going to be doing one of two things, which is either moving forwards or backwards. So you need to be recognizing, are we moving forwards or backwards? And if you're moving forwards, you need to be moving forwards and adjusting your left and right positioning as well. So if they're moving on that final point where they're moving round the circle left-wise, if you were to hug the left wall, you'd give yourself very bad sightlines. However, if someone line of sights you and you move slightly to the right, you then give yourself those sightlines. I'll see if I can prep a thing to quickly show you between. I'll do that while you're preparing your defenses.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
So yes, I also have Stat Banana, which I'll be using, and hopefully I can then demonstrate that point I'm trying to describe about line of sights.
Hey. Hello there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
This is going to
Stop
hurt.
the payload.
It's going to be okay. Get back into fight. I give you
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
So yeah, at the moment the reason I'm quiet is I'm currently just setting up
going to be okay.
the Stat Banana map, so I can show you this bit at the end of this game.
There's absolutely nothing I can do in this game.
This will help.
Torbjörn, ready to work.
You're covered. You're powered up. Get in there.
Because I have an Xbox and a keyboard and mouse, so I was thinking of plugging the keyboard and mouse in the Xbox, and it feels like keyboard and mouse could help me improve. I would buy a gaming keyboard and mouse. I think it's always worth having just a nice keyboard and mouse, even just for every day. Like, it's just nice to use a decent mouse. If you're at your PC a lot, then it's worth spending a little bit to get yourself. You don't need to spend like loads and loads. My mouse was £45. My keyboard was a lot, but that's because I use it so much, and I do a lot of word processing as well, and working with databases and stuff. So it's dual purpose. So I spent loads of money on a mechanical keyboard.
Go. I give you I have your back.
At the moment, your player's down, so you just want to regroup with your team, keep the people that are alive, but don't go all out with anything. You can hear someone to your left at the moment. So that Zen and Ryan on payload do know where you are. So what you're currently seeing is why tanks are important. Because DPS can deal damage to things, supports can keep things alive, but in general your tanks are the ones that are contesting. So there's no one in your team that would naturally contest, so it doesn't matter anything else that happens. And you can see that when anyone but a tank tries to contest, how they're just not built to do that job. So it's very, very early sleep. You should have been able to kill that Bastion there. So again, you just want to do the sleep shot nade combo. So I'm quickly going to show you a few things. The first one I'm going to show you on the stream is just a thing in practice range about the sleep shoot shot combo. Sleep shoot nade combo, I should say. So I'm just going to be an Ana, walking around, and then I'm going to sleep a target.
You look tired.
Then you want to shoot nade at the same time, because if you just shoot the target,
Feeling sleepy?
it wakes them up. But also you can somewhat animation cancel your nade with a shot. So I'll show you that again. Is you sleep a target and then you want to shoot and then immediately nade. And then shoot again. And that can actually just take out a 200 HP target.
Hostile down. Oh,
And if it's at a distance,
tired.
you can do a similar thing. You can do it in the other order if you want to.
That will only hurt for a
So you can time the shot and the nades they hit at the same time. But that's something to really, really make use of. The next thing I'm going to show you is on Stat Banana, which I've prepared on a different screen. So hopefully, let's transition over to that. Okie dokie. So this is about sightlines and about thinking about where your team wants to go. So I've put two Anas on the screen with two green lines. So this is kind of what you were doing. And this green line represents the farmost line of sight. So in that position, you can't see beyond there. And if you think of Ryan, previously, he's walked this way, along here, along here, along here. So you can predict the direction he's probably going to go in is that direction. You can pretty much predict quite easily. I'm going to do a different color for Ryan. You know he's going in this direction. That is not a good color for this map. Let's do pink. So you know that's the route your Ryan wants to take approximately. So, is that the same green? That's a different green. The other thing for you to do is, let me just go back to the grabber tool. So what I can do is actually add in a timeline event. So I can add this timeline event there. So I'm going to move this Ryan. And then I'm going to show you what you should be doing as Ana. So you want to then move like this. And hopefully I can then go back to the start and then play this dynamically. And now, when I play that through, I'm just going to be drawing on a bunch of lines to show you about this end sight line. I can't draw and move. That kind of makes sense, though. That's why I can't draw at the same time. But anyway, that's a sight line at that position. Let's go along to there. Sight lines, and you can kind of see that it's just it's just maths and triangles and lines. That as you're moving up, you'll still maintain that sight line with your Ryan. Oh, that actually works quite well, how it does that. And what you were doing, so if I can just delete all frames. And then I'll rub out all of these. Yeah. Delete, delete. What you were doing is being quite slow to react positioning-wise. So what was happening is your Rhine might be you might be here. Still going to draw those lines, which is actually quite useful because those are the sight lines which you should be taking. So what was happening is, let me just go to here, and I just want to delete current frame. There you go. I can go over here and then move the Rhine over there like I want him to. What was happening is you should have been having this sight line here, but instead you were kind of being quite slow to react. And by the time your Rhine was there, kind of there, and then your Rhine was dying because you were only at this point. And then if we were to draw on those sight lines in a different color, you can see how your sight lines are very much lagging behind where he is. So I want to pause at that first one. So you can't see your Rhine. You can see everything here, but you can't see your Rhine. And here again, you don't have line of sight on your Rhine because you're not thinking about where is your Rhine likely to go. In general, they're either going to be moving forwards or backwards. And the good thing about... So I'll now show you what you should be doing positioning-wise. And I'll just delete all frames. Delete all frames. So here's you as Anna, and here's your Rhine. Move forward a bit in time, and would be nice if I could... Is there a way? There's probably a way to clear all annotations. Probably. But anyway, your Rhine is moving. I'm just going to keep your Rhine moving and deleting these lines. And I'm going to show you two scenarios. One is where you fully engage, and then one is where you're going to be falling back. And I'll show you why you take the position that you do. So there, we're moving to there. 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 And the reason we're doing this is we're not just only just seeing where the Rhine is. You have a bit of extra leeway. So your Rhine, you currently only need those slight ones, but you're giving yourself a bit of extra because he's going to do one of two things. He's either going to go forwards or go backwards. And at the moment, regardless of what he does, you can see both of those sight lines. Go ahead to here. Again, if you notice, you're giving yourself a slight bit of leeway, because then, if your Rhine decides to move forwards, you've still got those sight lines on him. When he moves there, again, you're giving yourself an extra bit of sight. So if we replay the whole thing, I'm just going to draw some main arrows. So I'll just do it just like this. And you can almost infinitely just extend these lines. Like, I can't get the right, like that. And just look at how this Arna can always see that Rhine and always see slightly ahead of him as well. And the reason it's important to see slightly ahead of him, hello, it's not mech. So the reason it's important to see slightly in front of him is because that then gives you information on what he's likely to do next. So if you restrict your sightlines, so I'm going to show you what your sightlines are at the moment here. No, not the Arna. No, line. So you can see all the way over there. You also see around here. So you have pretty good vision. And because you can see all of what's around here, that gives you an idea of how your Rhine's going to be reacting. So let's take scenario 1. They have Rhine, Zaya, Diva, Let's give them Zen, Lucio, and Brig. Okay? So right now, you can see that your Rhine is faced up with this. So what is he going to do? He's probably going to fall back from that. Or he's going to be... He might push forwards a bit, but then be forced to come back. And you know this because you can see those players. Now let's pretend you're in this position over here. Like that. So you can only just see your Rhine. Let's do green for this one. So you can only just see your Rhine. You don't have any information at the moment on what your Rhine is likely to do next. But also you have no information on what the enemy is likely to do next. So you don't really know how you should be adjusting your positioning. Whereas if we move you around there, for example, you can see this. You can see and think, okay, what's going to happen next? You can see when the enemies do things. Let's now do the opposite situation where your Rhine, instead of going forwards, decides to go back. So let's go just delete current frames, and we're going to keep the Ana ones the same, actually. We're going to keep the Ana ones the same, and I'm going to show you why it still works. So at this position, okay, delete current frame. Okay, that's it. That's interesting. It's moved the Rhine still there. Let's do delete all frames. I want to keep all these things. There, to clear entire surface. There we go. So hopefully, there you go. That's now done the thing that I wanted to do. Okay. So your Rhine's going to do a very, very similar thing, but this time, no, not you. I want to move the Rhine. This time, he starts engaging and then decides to fall back. So he gets to there, for example, and then decides to fall back. What you can then do is just fall back as well. You just fall back to the previous position. Fall back to the previous position. And again, you can think in terms of sight lines. You can see the Rhine, you can see the Rhine. Obviously, this is actually slightly lagging a bit. The idea is if you can see slightly ahead of the Rhine, if he moves forwards, you can still heal him. If he moves backwards, you can still heal him. That's kind of the big summary here. And let's just go over to this previous section. Obviously, it doesn't have the high ground bit. Again, let's just do draw, clear entire surface. And Windows, reset timeline. There we go. I'm going to give you your Rhine and your Hog as you had. And I'm now going to take you through the mentality of what the enemy team is thinking. And this is one thing that's really useful for you to do, is to get into the head of the enemies and think what they're likely to do. So you had Hog, you had Rhine, you had Brig as well. Which is, let's get yourself a Genji, an enemy Genji. Now, let's... Scenario 1. That Genji does not... He doesn't want to... He can't do anything against that. That Genji can't engage onto you, because he's just going to get stunned, he's going to get hooked. So that Genji can't do anything now. Scenario number 2. Oh, look, I'm a Genji. Wander. Oh, no, I don't want to go for that. Oh, look, a lone Ana. That makes a nice, easy target for me to go to. Oh, and their Brig and their Hog are so far away, they can't do anything. So, Genji just engages onto you. And a bad response would be to run further away, because that's not a 1v1 you want. Your response always has to be, go towards your team. Go towards the people that you want to peel for you. But that then raises the question, why not just play close to them in the first place? You know, what does this position here give you? Okay, I'm going to go over sightlines again, and I'm going to show you the two positions and show you why there is no reason to play back here if they're running flankers. So your sightlines from this position, that is where your sightlines end. Okay, let's now move your position to there. Now let's draw another line for your sightlines. I need to select the line tool. They're exactly the same. You have exactly the same sightlines, but here's the big catch. Is now let's go forwards a bit, and your team have moved here. Now I'm going to move Ana an amount of distance to the right, ignoring walls, in both scenarios. So let's put that in a red line. So it's going to be about that distance over there. It's going to be about that same distance over here. So let's actually put two Anas on the screen. And again, this is maths. So quick maths. So this Ana sight line goes over to there because it's cut off at the corner. This other Ana, which has moved the exact same distance with these red lines, it moved the exact same distance. That's her sight lines. So you can see that your first Ana has moved a distance and only given herself that much more in terms of sightlines. A tiny, tiny, tiny amount. Whereas here, you've moved the same distance, but given yourself so much more in terms of sightlines. And that's why playing close to your team is hugely, hugely beneficial. Because it takes X amount of time to move that distance. The thing is, if I now draw the same red line, but from your team's point of view, and we go back a frame, so that red line, I'm going to try and draw that approximately the same distance red line. And actually, they were there to start with. Red, no. No. Okay, I'll just draw it slightly over here. Anyway, red line. Hello, Piggybo. Welcome to today's stream. The idea is that essentially you should be able to move an amount of distance that is equal to the distance that your team has moved to still maintain sightlines on them. If you're playing all the way back here, the distance you have to move to see them... let's draw a straight red line all the way back here. There we go. You'd have to move from that position all the way round to that position. So you'd somehow have to rotate from there all the way around, all the way around, all the way around to there in the time it takes your Rhine to walk from there to there, which is impossible because you have the same walking speed. So yeah, it's just maths. Is play closer to your team, because then if you move a fixed amount of distance perpendicular to your sight lines, the angle that is revealed to you is greater. So you give yourself the ability to increase your sight lines by a much larger magnitude by playing closer to your team. Does that all make sense? Mm-hmm. Excellent. I'm glad that I have this tool. It's really wonderful, and the different colors. So yeah, that's like a concept like I try to describe to people a lot. It's like the maths of like moving. I mean, you can go to literally an extreme example and like put an Ana at this corner here, like, and then move the Ana an amount of distance, and she goes from that sight line to these just that. There you go. You know, literally, she's moved the same amount of distance. But the great thing about the fact that you've moved that amount of distance, your team's moved that amount of distance, is yeah, the last thing I'm going to say on this is this all comes to what your team is going to do next. And I'm just going to do a giant arrow here. Giant arrow. That is the direction your team is moving in. And if we go back to the beginning, put you there at the corner, your team moves forwards in the direction they'd like to move to. You make this same distance rotation, and you can not just see where your team is now, you can see what your team can currently see. You can see everything. You have all of the info. You know where your team is, you know where the enemy team is, and if your team moves forwards, you can still see them. If your team moves backwards, you can very easily just go back to where you were before. It's great. Play closer to your team as a support, and then you can have better sightlines.
That's basically the TLDR version.
TLDR. Play close to your team. That gives you always improved sightlines, improved informative positioning, gives you more info, puts you close to the people that can peel for you. If you nade yourself, you can nade your team at the same time. And the other thing is you're seeing what your team is seeing. So you're kind of on the same wavelength. So yeah, TLDR. If you're struggling to main sight, if you're finding that your team is line of sighting you a lot, as a support, play closer to the corners. But this is also why Widowmakers play at a really, really large distance, because when they move left and right slightly, it reveals a tiny little angle to them, and normally they're looking to peek. Whereas if you were Widow playing at this corner and you moved slightly, just anyone along that line then can see you peeking out. So there you go.